Hi, I'm Tim Tyler, and this is a video about universal instrumental values. First though, a brief introduction to some terminology. Instrumental values are things that are not particularly intrinsically valuable, but nonetheless have a kind of intermediate value since they contribute towards achieving ultimate goals. One example of something with instrumental value is money. Money is just bits of paper. It's got minimal intrinsic value. Its main value arises through what you can do with it in a social environment. It's been hypothesized that there's a class of instrumental values that are widespread amongst goal-seeking agents. Here, we'll call these universal instrumental values. They're things that most goal-seeking agents are likely to assign instrumental value to. The universal instrumental values appear to prominently include control over space-time and mass energy, resulting in power and security. Technological development appears to be a universal instrumental value, at least amongst sufficiently advanced agents. The drive to inhibit or eliminate potential competitors seems to be pretty universal too. Information gathering, truth-seeking, avoiding self-deception and being rational are other potential candidates. In the absence of alchemy, each element might count as being its own form of universal instrumental value. This list of values could probably be easily extended further. The term universal instrumental value comes from ROCO. However, they have also been referred to under a variety of other names. Steve Omohundro refers to them as basic AI drives, and Richard Hollerith has a closely related concept which he calls goal system zero. I think ROCO has got the best terminology, although his universal term seems rather grand to me. These values are probably not literally universal in most senses of the word. However, here I will adopt the use of ROCO's terminology. ROCO introduced his version of the idea as follows. It may be true that for a very wide class of notions of intrinsic value, you always end up with the same notion of instrumental value. Let me call this hypothesis the universal instrumental value hypothesis. Steve Omohundro has written some nice papers on this general topic. His list of universal instrumental values included things like protecting your goals from modification, clarifying your goals to yourself, and avoiding behaviour analogous to drug taking. He emphasised that these were things that a broad class of intelligent agents would want unless opposing desires were explicitly programmed into them. Richard Hollerith claims to have first come across the idea way back in 1992. He proposes that agents that do not employ much in the way of temporal discounting are likely to pursue universal instrumental values almost exclusively for extended periods of time before feeling secure enough to go on to do other things. Another stimulating idea from Hollerith is to classify deviations from universal instrumental values as being moral contaminants. I once made a popular presentation on the subject of moral contaminants, calling powerful agents suffering from them handicapped superintelligences. Many handicapped superintelligences with moral contaminants would maximise something other than entropy production, perhaps gold atoms or whatever else they valued. They might thus leave behind a low entropy state, such as a big pile of gold atoms. The idea of universal instrumental values also links up to the, alas, still little known idea that living systems maximise entropy production. Agents pursuing universal instrumental values would leave nothing behind them. They would not care for anything except for the future representation of their own heritable information, and in doing so would locally maximise the increase in entropy. I refer to this idea as God's utility function. The idea that we might create a handicapped superintelligence which leaves behind a low entropy state and fails to maximise entropy would run counter to the principle of maximum entropy production. The idea of universal instrumental values seems to be an important one to me. It provides an elegant naturalistic basis for moral behaviour which is independent of the details of today's biological systems. This is something which moral philosophers seem likely to be interested in. It gives us a guide relating to what machine intelligences are likely to want. It also gives us a guide to what values we should pursue if we're interested in maximising the chances of the long-term survival of our civilization. Enjoy!